Hello.
Hello, everyone. If you are looking for the Aberdeen Young Professionals webinar, 50 Shades of Granite, you're in the right place. We'll just give it a few more minutes for people to join in. Please do let us know if you're here on the chat. Give a thumbs up, say hello. Hello, everyone.
I think Richard and Dave are in the chat. So
Yeah, I can make them present, hopefully.
Perfect. Lots of you here, which is great. Perfect.
Hello, Andrew. Hello, Nicola. Hi, Sean, Paul.
There we go.
Richard.
Hi, Richard.
Hiya.
And here's Dave. Hi, Dave.
How's everyone doing? We'll just give it a few more minutes. See, we've got a couple more people joining us before we kick off. If you're just joining us, feel free to say hello in the chat. Give us a thumbs up. Let us know everything's working for you. You can hear us.
Dave's disappeared.
See if we can get him back. Good evening, Daniel.
Perfect. That's 2026 here. So that's great.
Okie doke. Maybe just 2 more minutes, Heather, and then I can
Yeah,
start.
sure, absolutely. Richard, you've got a very red wall behind you.
Yeah, change of scenery.
That green screen.
Oh, danger. I'm staying with the in-laws at the moment. We're getting a little bit of work done at the house, so yeah, just getting. But on the plus side, I got all my meals cooked for me, which is never bad. You can live with that, you know.
And it's Aberdeen red as well. That's
Yeah, it's very on brand.
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect. Okay. So I think we can maybe make a start now, Heather. How many are we up to?
We're up 27, so that's fantastic. Really good turnout.
Okay. All right. So thank you, everyone attending, for coming along this evening. Really appreciate you giving up a free evening to be with us this evening. And also a huge thank you to our guests, who we'll find out a bit more about in a wee minute. Firstly, I'd like to officially welcome you to the Aberdeen Young Professionals webinar, 50 Shades of Granite, How Do We Fall Back in Love with Our City Centre? Just before we hear from our guests for a little introduction, I would just like to do a little bit of housekeeping. So you'll see on the chat function on the right-hand side that you're able to say hello, maybe give us a thumbs up, anything like that. Please do feel free to use this chat function throughout the webinar. It is very good for us being able to see your thoughts, your opinions on whatever we're speaking about. So feel free to use that. I would encourage you to do so. If you want to ask a question specifically, you'll see there is an alternate tab or perhaps it's a box below the webinar video with a question mark in a speech bubble. Please use that to submit your questions. That way we don't lose any of the questions in the chat. Okay, thank you very much.
Perfect.
So just as a quick introduction, I'll introduce myself, Heather can introduce herself, and then we can get on to the main event. So my name is Matthew McClure. I'm currently the chairman of the Aberdeen Young Professionals Committee. We are a group that do networking events, conferences, and also social events like the AYP annual ball. Unfortunately, for obvious reasons, in the last year, we've not been able to do much of that. But if you would like to find out a bit more about it, please do find us on LinkedIn. We're on Instagram, and you can also check us out on our website, aypgroup.co.uk. Okay, and with me today, I also have Heather. Hello, Heather.
Hi guys, nice to see you all here. Thank you for joining. So yeah, I'm Heather Buchan, and I'm in marketing and communication for a company called Imrand, Union Street office. So I guess I have a bit of an invested interest in the city centre. So yeah, looking forward to giving some insights from some passionate Aberdeen.
Perfect. Thank you, Heather. Okay, so instead of me talking all the time, I'm going to hand it over to our guests. So just a quick introduction from each of you, if that's all right. Alan, can we start with you?
Sure, thanks. Well, I'm Alan Henderson, and first and foremost, I'm a very proud Aberdonian. I love the city, love everything about the city, and really determined to see that our city survives and prospers. I went to uni in Aberdeen University, worked in accountancy for a while, and then moved into hospitality. I've run a contract catering business in the city for over 22 years, which actually spreads the length and breadth of the country. So I've got good comparisons with other cities across the country. Some 12 years ago, one of my pals and I decided to enter the bar trade, and we purchased our first hospitality business. So my business partner, Darren McCrae, and I purchased the old Frankensteins, set up McGinty's Meal and Ale. And we've developed a 9-venue business across the city. We have the Stack, number 10, 4 Mile, Ferry Hill, Silver Darling, the Grill, Max Pizzeria, and the Esselman. So I'm sure a few of you have all been probably misbehaved at some point in one of those establishments, or perhaps I'm a great believer in the city. I also believe that when you're in business in the city, you should do your bit. I think the Americans call it your pro bono, which doesn't necessarily mean that you donate a £50 million car park to the hospital, although as generous as that is. But there's other ways of giving back to the city, and I tend to do it by way of my time. I am chairman of Aberdeen Inspired, which represents 850 businesses in the city centre, which I know we're going to come to later. And I'm also a non-exec director of Visit Aberdeenshire. And that's enough about me. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that, Alan. Appreciate it. Dave, would you mind going next?
Yeah, so my name's Dave Griffiths. I was born and raised in Aberdeen, studied in Aberdeen, and I've always worked in restaurant management and development within the city since I was 16 years old. So latterly I've moved into launching my own business, which I launched in Aberdeen Indoor Market, which is Avo, the avocado-based cafe. So we were obviously kind of in the pandemic and the indoor market closing. Since then, I've gone on to take on a lot of freelance graphic design, marketing work through the pandemic, as well as launch Staxx with my business partner Michael. So Staxx is a creative social market that we're launching in the city, and it's kind of my response to, our response to being evicted from the market and seeing the potential in that.
Have we lost Dave?
And he's gone.
We'll try and get Dave back, but if we could carry on with our introductions. Murray, do you want to go?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Murray Barber. I too am a proud Aberdonian. I went to school here, moved away for a bit, studied here, moved away a bit, and I've been back since about 2005. I'm a partner at EY, the professional services firm, accountancy firm, and I'm on the board of Castlegate Arts, which is the company which runs the Arts Centre on King Street. I'm chairman there at the moment. I'm also one of the Flying Pigs. Now, I don't know if you know who they are, but we're a comedy group. We specialise in Doric whimsy, and we do shows at His Majesty's. We've had a BBC Radio Scotland show, a wildly acclaimed and widely ignored TV pilot that we did a few years ago. So you know, I'm kind of embedded in the cultural scene as much as the business scene and the business networks. And you know, we'll come on to it later in terms of what I see the real importance of culture in. It's important to the history, but also the future around where the city can go in, and particularly the city centre.
Amazing. Thanks for that, Murray. We've got Gordon saying he loves the Flying Pigs, so that's good to see. Sorry, Dave, you dropped off there, but do you want to finish off what you're saying?
Of all the times for my internet to play up here.
No problem.
But yeah, so just kind of lightly touching on the Staxx project, is the mission kind of around that is obviously my response really to seeing the huge potential that was in Aberdeen Indoor Market. And obviously it was earmarked to be an office development afterwards. So it was kind of my response to feeling that it was a really necessary place to have in our city, because we don't seem to have that stepping stone for young entrepreneurs like myself that don't have a lot of investment or a lot of personal kind of cash behind them. And we've seen over 450 business people apply to be a vendor at Staxx already. So to have that, it just shows the amount of driven people there are willing to launch businesses in Aberdeen, but they just need to be given the opportunity. So that's what we look to do, and by creating this marketplace, which is both daytime, evening, retail, arts, street food, bar focused, and really just being a social hub for the city where people can grasp opportunities, launch businesses with affordable rents, or even go in with existing businesses to do another arm of it to generate further capital because of the affordable rates to reinvest in their growth, whether it's within or out with Aberdeen. So,
excellent. That sounds really good. Thanks for the update. And last but certainly not least, Richard.
Thanks, guys. So my name's Rich Tinto, and I am owner and run a business called Tinto, who specialise in architecture, interior design, and project management. Started what I was doing really young, really naive, as a local loon, and have sort of grown into a medium-sized provider of what we like to call transformational spaces. I'm a passionate Aberdonian. I love everything about the city, and what's the sentiment of the other guys? I see nothing but a bright future for Aberdeen, and I think it's our collective responsibility to stop whinging and actually get on with making a difference. You know, small changes made gradually over time lead to big things, and I feel if I'm doing my bit, then at least nobody can whinge at me.
Excellent. That's a very sound logic. So yeah, I appreciate that, and thanks everyone for all your introductions. I think now I'll just briefly provide a bit of context as to why we're running this webinar for those of you that might not know. So despite the tongue-in-cheek nature of this titled webinar, the regeneration of the city centre is a topic that does actually require quite a lot of earnest thought. Since the imposed lockdowns in March 2020, Aberdeen has faced a lot of challenges, and has subsequently brought, you know, some hospitality venues, gyms, and even big name brands to their knees. So I think now is the time more than ever for committed investment and dedication to the city centre. And that comes from government, it comes from council, but it also comes from you people watching at home, the consumer. So this is really to kind of raise the profile of that. We did actually do a short poll on the Aberdeen Young Professionals LinkedIn page, and actually 76% of you said you were unaware of any investment or initiative happening to city centre post-COVID. So it is vital that we host webinars like this to bring to light the amazing things that are happening in Aberdeen city centre, and I think the people we've got on the webinar this evening will hopefully provide that.
Yeah.
So I think a good place to start is perhaps looking back at Aberdeen's historical performance. There are people that would suggest that there have been problems in Aberdeen for a while and that COVID simply brought these to light. So that'll lead me to my first question, and it's for all of you. So if I could get an answer from each of you. In your opinion, has Aberdeen City Centre been struggling for some time, and has COVID brought these weaknesses to light? Who wants to start with that?
I'll dive in, and I think the honest answer is yes. I think Aberdeen struggled to have an identity crisis for a long time, but for too long, many of us were blind to recognise that the investment that was made in Aberdeen out of town overlooked the city centre for far too long. And I think in much the way that other cities have had to reinvent themselves, the events before COVID were forcing Aberdeen to think again with regards to what the future looked like. The changing energy market found Aberdeen wanting with regards to an identity. So I believe that we've been on the slippery slope for quite a wee while now, and COVID has definitely sharpened the focus, but also galvanised us perhaps to be in a little bit more cohesive in our approach to the future.
Perfect. And anyone else like to share their thoughts on that?
I can jump in. I think in terms of the industry I've been working in, the hospitality industry, my feeling was that for kind of too long, I kind of was always sort of recognising quite a highly kind of competitive vibe amongst different businesses to kind of latch on to the obvious kind of influx of oil wealth. And that's kind of been a big driving factor in things I've been doing, looking at trying to take a more kind of collaborative approach and definitely promote anyway through the businesses that I've been involved in. A lot more of an emphasis on businesses collaborating together that are local independents to actually gain collective success, rather than just focusing on keeping all the cards close to the chest all the time and seeing kind of PAs and things as your kind of your customers and etc. So I think that obviously drills into the kind of need for obviously the Staxx project too, which is all about creating that community of business owners, entrepreneurs, and people in our city, from our city, that care about our city, and to all do something together, look after each other, and help each other grow collectively.
Yeah, that's a very good point. How was it received? Can you explain a little bit about collaborating with other vendors, for example? Was there a little bit of pushback, a bit of hesitancy to do so, or was it generally quite well accepted?
No, to be honest, I mean it's not something that obviously it was exclusive to myself or the business. And there was people out there that were very willing to do it, but obviously the more people saw the collaborative aspect, especially Avo, was very much like since that was my business, and I just took it upon myself that pretty much every menu item was named after a local producer of, say, bacon, salmon, or whatever else, and I would put even we'd have, say, like brownies from Melt, or we'd have meat from Smoke and Soul, or from some plant-based stuff from Roots Catering, and we'd actually put them in a corner on our menu saying, find our friends here and check out their socials and go visit them as well. I think it was just that approach that people seem to really like. And then obviously as people kind of saw that, other business owners in the city, I did kind of notice it was starting to become a bit more of a growing trend. A lot more people were kind of going down that route because it was really well received by the public. So
that's really great to hear, and encouraging that there was an uptake on it. Definitely, yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyone else like to give their thoughts?
I think just on this culture in the city centre, I mean, I think pre-COVID, things were beginning to happen, but the way I look at culture in the city, I think some of the bigger venues and the well-known, the well-known kind of, I wouldn't say acts, but there's focus on people going to see things that they know they'll like, and not experimenting with things that they maybe are not so sure about. And I think people like great up and up-and-coming theatre group called 10 Foot Tall. We've done some amazing things in the city. I've been doing a lot of work through COVID around trying to dig out some of the jewels out there, and there's quite a lot going on. I just don't think they're getting the profile that they should get, or are giving them the chance they need. And I think what's going to happen, and what I hope is going to happen, is that COVID has kind of accelerated, kind of brought issues to a head where if we're looking at the city centre and what we can use that for from a cultural perspective, whether that's New York is a great example of using the city in a way to showcase art, but I think the same needs to happen around theatre, song, dance, all that kind of stuff. So, and my hope is that we begin to look differently at the city centre and culture and how we can merge the two together.
Yeah, absolutely. So, would you be able to explain, in your opinion, perhaps, why there hasn't been as much of a willingness to experiment with these less known, be it theatre companies, comedy groups, and things like that?
I think it's a little bit around mentality, if I'm honest, and mindset. And Richard touched on the mindset before. I think we're probably a bit. And I'm using this really broadly and collectively, so forgive me if you take exception to the rule. But there's just there is this hesitancy of saying, well, I know I'm going to like that, so I'm going to go and see it. But if you go to Edinburgh or dare I say it, Dundee, I think especially there's a real different view. Again, personal opinion, but I'm giving things a chance, and I would like to see more people. If there's one lesson I want to get across, or one point of view I want to get across, it's I'd love to see more of that shift in mindset.
Absolutely, and I think it's definitely needed, as you say. Absolutely. Alan, do you want to give your thoughts?
Yeah, I would take things back a little further, and just maybe a little bit more on a broad scale. Aberdeen made a few horrendous decisions historically, and I'm listing them as: we moved our universities out the city. Cities need footfall. RGU is out in Carthy in a complex. It should be in the centre of the city, as far as I'm concerned. We moved the shopping malls down to Market Street, and we didn't stay within the sort of. Union Street is still our main artery. Unfortunately now the style of shops in Union Street isn't what the big guys want, and the big guys are looking for less and less. So I think there's been historic mistakes made. This is definitely a time for sort of retuning everything and seeing where we are with things. But let's not forget. Andy Hornby, who's the CEO of the restaurant group, said, and I used a Sky News thing a couple of weeks ago I was watching. Since last February, 35% of branded restaurants have closed in Britain. 35% of your chain restaurants. So we're not going to be any different. We're going to have our share of that 35%. So we can't just buck trends and think, well, why is it happening to us? It's happening all over. Pizza Express have closed. Giraffe restaurants have closed. I think it was Five Guys Burgers. There was the Gourmet Burger Company. So we're going to pick up our share of that. So let's not pretend we're any different not to get that. I do think that historically we've proven ourselves to be a very resilient city. We've moved from being granite capital to the fishing capital to the oil capital, and I think we can move to be the green capital. And I think that would make a big difference. And I think there's big moves to get on there. We don't want to talk about politics tonight, but it's not helped by the fact that we don't get our share of the pie up in the northeast. And I think that's really important. But moving forward, I think there's a lot of really positive things, And we've been a bit unlucky in the last year and a half. The music hall was just built, it was just refurbed. Mark Gallery was refurbed. P&J Live was refurbed. And I can tell you, as being a bar owner in the city centre, if there's big events going on in the city centre, our bars double their take on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and a Thursday night. And I would say, to Murray's point, in terms of do we take a big enough chance, I know that with my Aberdeen Inspired hat, we've introduced a comedy festival which goes around 40 venues in the city. Now, I can assure you, because I've been in many of them, quite a few of them are absolutely crap. But I take the view you've always got to watch the bad ones to appreciate the good ones. And that's what I think you do at the Fringe. I've been to very poor performance at the Edinburgh the festival. And I'm a great believer, I suppose also being a fan of Aberdeen, you have to watch the bad games to appreciate the good games as well. So there is an element of experimentation in there. But I am quite positive in terms of, I think there's moves afoot, and I think we'll probably come to it later from the council being a little bit more innovative and a little bit more ballsy in terms of what they do with the city centre. So, I'm not giving up on it. I think there's positives out there that we need to stick to.
Great. No, it's good to hear, and I think there's some very good points made in what you said. And maybe just to stick with you, Alan, just for a little bit, you briefly touched on the fact that you've been through oil recessions and global recessions. So can you explain to us maybe how has it been in Aberdeen owning a hospitality operating business throughout the last decade, for instance?
Well, for us, it's been very good. We've got a very successful business. And I do think there's a little element of people out there that go, oh, we're not doing well because the city's not doing well. That's not always true. We've invested in our businesses. And like most good businesses, if you invest, hopefully you get the return. But I also think, to be frank, some businesses in Aberdeen got it too easy in the sort of halcyon days of the oil industry, where expense accounts were just dished out willy-nilly. And that's been teamed back. And I think that in hospitality, some people, got business without having to be particularly good at it. And I think there's an element of the standards might improve because, you have to be good to get the business. It's maybe a bit more competitive. But I also think there's opportunities. David, you were on about the sort of high rents in the city. What's happened in the city in the past is the independents haven't had a chance to go into the shopping malls because the shopping mall owners have gone for the big nationals because they believed their covenants were better. It's actually quite ironic that that's gone totally on its head because they've all walked away from paying their rents and gone into voluntary creditor agreements, which makes the likes of Ernst & Young millions of money, It's not great for city centres. But what I see when I see that happening is that I think that some of the big landowners and especially the shopping mall owners will actually be desperate to take independence in. So I do see rents coming down. I do see more innovative structures in terms of rents, which may be turnover related as opposed to you will pay me 100 grand and you'll sign your house over to me for 25 years. And that's why people like me have never gone into those sort of arrangements because I'm not prepared to do it. And I think the power has gone more to the tenant than to the landlord post pandemic. That might take a couple of years to work through, but it will work through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Richard, do you have any thoughts on that? Alan's point there about the business rates and the benefiting factors that might come from this following the pandemic.
Yeah, I think there's a few things in it. I think I definitely echo Alan's sentiments around far too many businesses, and I said this to you guys last week, far too many businesses in Aberdeen existed on an average basis because of the buoyancy of the city. And I don't think it was necessarily just true of retail and hospitality. And I think over the last wee while, those that are resilient and those that have been adaptable and absolutely those that have invested as well are those that will come out of this stronger. You need to invest to grow a business, and anyone that thinks that you don't is off their head. And as for the repropositioning of the rates and the leases, etc., it has to happen because there's so much real estate there that the assets are there. It would be like turning the Titanic to try and reproposition all those spaces so quickly to do something else with them. So these landlords are going to be forced with a decision about how to get rents for their spaces. And I think, it's not going to happen overnight. There's a bit of adjustment to come with business rates and various other elements as well. But I would really like to see places like the Trinity Centre, you know, there's a hole in the corner where Debenhams was. There's a hole at the back of the Bonnercourt Centre where John Lewis sadly were, and the future's uncertain there. So if we can start to see some of that pent-up demand that Dave's alluding to, you know, 450 independent businesses gagging for a shop front in the city centre, that's a great news story. And the sooner that we can adjust to that, and the sooner that the landowners and the governments can come together to incentivise that, I think the better. I do see it shifting. You see it shifting already in some of the deals that I've got an ear to going to previously absolutely non-negotiable local or smaller covenants, getting the opportunity to potentially occupy prime real estate, and I think that's exciting for Aberdeen and again across the country that'll happen.
Yeah, great to hear. Murray, over to you. Maybe just slightly changing tack, but I was wondering if you could maybe give us and the viewers a bit of an overview of your historic involvement in Aberdeen city centre and particularly the cultural development of it. Has Aberdeen always had an appetite for comedy, theatre, musicals, and even insightful conferences, for example?
Oh gosh, well, before I start, is my signal okay? Can you hear me fine?
Yeah. Can you hear you fine? Yep.
No, because I've got a message saying my signal is bad. So fingers crossed it's okay.
You're okay just now.
I mean, the Northeast has an incredibly rich tradition of comedy, song, laughter. You look at the storytelling that came out of the countryside, the Bothy ballads, and if we're going long way back, there's such a rich heritage there, and reason to go through, like, dig out some older stuff for a project I was looking at last year, and the amount of material and the strength of comedy, the way that we can look at ourselves, laugh at ourselves, is a real strength, right? Because people find comedy is a great mirror to hold it yourself. I mean, we are, despite what we say about mindset, we're great at laughing at ourselves. It's, and then you then extend that into the Aberdeen Student Show. It celebrates its centennial this year. That is a musical written and performed by 19 to 23-year-olds every year, other than like during the war and then sadly last year, which then Scotland the Walk comes out of Student Show. Probably one of the finest cultural outputs from the region. So it's always been there. You look at it's obviously talking about the Arts Centre, the Children's Theatre. It started in 1940. It was the first ever theatre purely for children in the UK. That started in 1942. Catherine Hollingsworth started it. It carried on right through to the late 80s. We're a region invested in culture, and we kind of get it. I think through. One last thing. Aberdeen International Youth Festival was another world-renowned festival for kids. People came from all over the world to perform at the youth festival. It created a real vibe for this. So there's loads of stuff there, and I think we just need to find our groove again. The Flying Pigs have tried to do our bit over the last few years. I think you look at the art school, Grace School of Art, some fantastic stuff coming out of that. The Look Again Festival. There's loads there. So hopefully you get kind of some of my passion for that. So when I was I came back to the city, I kind of wanted to find a way of giving something back. So to your question, just there, Matthew, about my involvement. Having done numerous shows at the Arts Centre, I was lucky enough to get a position on the board there. And, we see ourselves, we're right at the heart of the city centre. We have a role to play in what what next for the city centre. We've got close links to I guess youth theatre, from the Children's Theatre legacy. Local communities, all the Amdram dance classes, they all come through the Children's Theatre. Most people have been to see a show there or have seen friends and family in it if they've not been in it themselves. It is the beating heart to my mind, and it's underinvested in. And some of that goes to holding up a little bit of a mirror and saying that there's been some great stuff in that building. We just need a bit of cash injection, love, enthusiasm to kick that place on. And that's my kind of goal and ambition for the Arts Centre over the next 10 to 15 years. As we're looking at we're Aberdeen City Council own the building, but we've been running it for the last 15 years. I think we can really make that an important part of the city centre. Queen Street development as part of the city centre master plan coming down the line as well. So my job is to take control of our own destiny and really make that something an important venue. So that's where I am right now.
Yeah, no, that's really great to hear, and kind of proves how much we do have as a city behind us from a cultural side of things. So really appreciate you sharing that. And I think it's you talked about briefly your vision for the Aberdeen Arts Centre. I think that's something we'll touch on a little bit later. But lastly, a specific question to you, Richard. You started Tinto Architecture. It's been going approximately 17 years now. So how did you find Aberdeen City as an incubator for your startup? What was it that attracted you to do that?
I think I have to hang on the young and naive thing a little bit, and I used to apologise for saying it, but it was actually probably the best lesson in starting a business. And what Aberdeen was at the time was a very, very buoyant place. You got to remember, sort of 2004, the rise in the property market. We didn't have the big financial crash until a few years later. So I was very lucky to be part of that rising market, which meant that we could pick up business without being particularly good at the time. And when we figured out that we needed to be a little bit better, we probably changed our tact within that. So the city was very kind to us because we weren't ready, to do what we do. So the city was very kind. The city was a very good place. But the city's been since, it's still a really good place to do business because there's a loyalty in Aberdeen. And of late, and certainly more recently, what I found is we've kind of grown into ourselves and grown into having loyal local clients, is that loyalty can be built upon as well. As an incubator, I don't want to be negative at all. I do go back to that. It was easy to do it because it was easy to do business in general. Where it's been since, kind of watching in from the side, I think it's been hard for smaller businesses to get a foothold in, and Dave touched on it. There's a lot of reliance on oil and gas market on a mature market, which might have made it difficult for smaller businesses to get a foothold. But again, you fight and you battle, and if you're willing to kind of dust yourself down every day and give it another go, generally you will prevail. And I believe, and this is a sentiment from Aberdeen, that lots of people give up way too quickly. And most people give up. This is a cliche, but most people give up just before the going gets really good. And Aberdeen might just be somewhere like that at the moment. And that's a waffly answer, but it's the truth. That's what brought me here today. So
no, thank you. I appreciate it. It's a good insight. It's a good insight, definitely. I'm wondering, Heather, if we could maybe get a poll going, if that's all right.
Yes, we can. I work out how to do that.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. I guess while Heather's doing the poll, we can kind of, talk about what we're going to go on to next. And really that is the here and now, the present day Aberdeen, and, what's happening, what initiatives are being brought forward, what developments are being planned, what news breaks is there. So again, we're going to start off with a question to all of you. Each of you can provide your answer or not, up to you. But I just want to know from each of you, what is on the top of your agenda right now for Aberdeen? Any takers?
Collaboration, getting together, and understanding that each and every one of us have our part to play in this, and all of you on this webinar has a part to play in the future of the city. And we can change maybe the reserved narrative that we have as locals, and we can work together to achieve a better. It's not going to be easy, but there are so many opportunities in our city to lean into it and to get involved, and there are so many great things going on. I think there's a change in attitude from the City Council that's been alluded to earlier. Some really good thinking. I think there's things like the Vanguard project that the Chamber are doing. I think Aberdeen Inspired themselves and the Bid District all add weight together and are all pulling in the same direction, which I'm not sure was always the case, but I think it definitely is in most senses now. And then if you get the weight of public consensus behind that, you've got a movement going, and I think we can all be really, really positive about what's to come.
Fantastic. Good answer.
Yeah, I'd echo all of that. I mean, obviously we've, as in terms of Staxx, we've obviously massively felt the support from the public over what we're doing, and there's definitely a big desire, which obviously I started to see kind of quite early in terms of being in the indoor market, launching a wee business in there, because obviously it wasn't the most desirable of places to choose to launch a business. It was almost like we kind of, our hand was forced a little bit, because it was the only place we really found the opportunity. But people in the city are very supportive. They're crying out for something new, for additional culture, for what we're lacking in terms of, I suppose, matching Dundee with their kind of waterfront redevelopment, and now we're starting to go, right, well, why are we not pushing on? So I mean, we're obviously pressing on heavily with Staxx, and we're determined to do it, and we're determined to do it from a point of view of, myself and Michael are both born and bred Aberdonians, and we're just sick of change not happening. And we can see it, and we can all see it on this webinar. We can see that it's not happening fast enough. Other cities are overtaking us. So that's why we just took the onus upon ourselves to just do it, get it done, and just do it by any means necessary, to be honest. We've been meeting with a lot of people that are very influential in Aberdeen, and they've got deep pockets, so they've got lots of resources to help, and they want to help, and they're telling us in meetings that they're meeting tourists on the street and actually apologising for the state of Union Street, for example, because they're no longer proud to guide someone down the street past all these kind of decaying buildings and whatever else. So these people have also been ridiculously supportive to us, helping kind of nurture us and offer their support, whether it's practical support services or financial or whatever else. I mean, even Richard as well has taken on a lot of pro bono work because he's passionate about the city, to help us get this idea off the ground, because it is so desperately needed to help regenerate our city. And that's how I believe we're going to really make a big dent in it, is where we just need to give these 450 odd people the opportunity. Right now, they simply just don't have it. I had it in the market, and many people before me had it. Like, there's a lot of businesses people aren't aware on all over the city centre, like Union Street, Huntley Street, Crown Street, where, like, Cupcakes by Joe, for example, or Yarrakobi by CJ, or the list is pretty endless of businesses that started on a tiny little unit in that indoor market over the years. And then the community supported them. They've grown their business. They've gone out onto the street, and now they're thriving. So, I mean, it just shows that in a place like the market that's underinvested in and that's not run properly, that's not kind of vetting the right people to come in there, it can still be a big benefit to the city centre. So if it's done in a new, reimagined, right way, then it can be a huge positive impact for the city centre.
Yeah, thank you for that. There's really, really good points in there. Is there anyone else want to give their thoughts? You know, what's on the top of your agenda right now for Aberdeen?
I would echo a little bit what Richard said earlier in terms of there's definitely a different attitude at the council just now, you know. And I think that the council's current plans to purchase BHS and the detailed plans are not done yet, but the outline is to make it into some sort of food hall and support local businesses. I'm totally behind it. I mentioned earlier about the universities having moved out of the city. I think it would have been disastrous for the city, for the football team to move out of the city. And I'm totally behind keeping the football team and whatever we have, whether it's technology centres or whether it's one have buildings in the city. So one have moved into Upper Kirkgate next to Gordon's College. And I think that it really helps to see the suits move into the city. I mean, there's lots of sort of oil contractors who work in Aberdeen from the Central Belt. I think they only think that we have Dyson Altons. They don't have. I mean, we don't have a city centre because they've worked in offices in either one of those two and driven back to Glasgow at the end of it. You know, I think it was really encouraging to see the moves for the office at the top end of Union Street. So we've got the Capitol and the Silver Flint. We've got Marshall Square where offices are moving in. You know, big companies are moving in there. You know, your Royal Banks and your KPMGs, Aberdeen Journals, or whatever. So I think that's fantastic. And I think that will all help. So I do think there is things happening. I think the council's £150 million city centre plan, primarily to take the football team back in, to redevelop the gateway to, you know, we've got one of the best beaches in Britain, not just Scotland, but it doesn't form part of the connectivity with the city. And I would like to see some sort of connectivity improvements there to take the beach into the city centre as well. Anything for the city centre, you know, I mentioned those big projects going on earlier. We haven't seen the benefit of those yet, but we will see the benefits of those.
Yeah, excellent. Richard, you're nodding ahead there. What's your thoughts on Alan's points there?
Yeah, I absolutely, you know, the football club being it's and Alan made the point right at the top of the meeting that you need people in the city centre. You need people living, breathing, eating, sleeping, working in the city centre. So retaining their spend in the city centre, you do need to give them a reason to come, and you need to give them things to do. But people need to be able to do all things. They need to be, as I said, they need to be able to live in the city centre, exercise, play, go and see shows in the city centre, go and see the local sports team in the city centre. They need the ability never to leave if they never choose, because what that does is that creates a culture within a culture, and it then attracts people to come in to experience that culture as well. So you get that ripple effect. If you create a buzz about the city centre, then people want to be part of that buzz, so they begin to visit from Meldrum and Turriff and Fraserburgh and Inverness and Glasgow and Edinburgh, and then, oh, wait a minute, we're coming in from Amsterdam for a weekend in Aberdeen, or we're coming over. And that, because of the vibe that's created, is the momentum that we must try and create. You know, we must try and do that, because that's where the long-term sustainability of it comes, I believe.
And I'll jump in there. I mean, we were beginning to get some of that already, and I think COVID's given us a bit of a knock. You know, but the articles are beginning to come out in the you know, international papers around Aberdeen, the hidden gem, and all these, you know, so there was things happening. So let's not lose sight that we were kind of, we started the journey. We just now need to accelerate it.
Yep, absolutely. All very good points there. I guess just quickly, your thoughts, Richard and Dave. Alan mentioned it on the BHS store getting converted into a food market. What can you share some of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I when I was a young and naive loon, I actually did a wee article for the Chamber of Commerce, which was about connecting the city centre, and I made the point that Aberdeen was sort of viewed at this dirt track at the end of the A90, you know, that you sort of muddled into. But the idea of linking at the time the gardens to the merchant quarter back to the civic heart, which, you know, Broad Street, which was St Nicholas House at the time, was something that I was really passionate about. I'm actually trying to get Russell Bothwick to see he's got his article on file. So the BHS building is a gateway. It was a modern addition to Union Street that is sacrificial. It's a sacrificial building. If you just look up at the facade, it doesn't match any of the other facades, etc. It's the most wonderful gateway into the merchant quarter, as it's affectionately known. And that access, that sort of east to west axis on Union Street has been over time moved around a little bit. So I think from, you know, the Music Hall West, there's an opportunity to do something slightly different with the city. But I think that Union Square right through to George Street element, that retail access is a wonderful opportunity, and the site that we're talking about is in the heart of that. So yeah.
Excellent.
Matthew, can I just add one more point to that as well?
Go for it. Yeah.
And I think it's a really important point is the potential pedestrianisation of part of Union Street, because we're all talking about as being environmentally friendly and our green charters and whatever. Union Street doesn't tick that box at all pre-pandemic. There's exhaust fumes on every corner, and it really isn't. It's not a wide street at the best of times. I think there's an opportunity when you say that where are the opportunities post-pandemic is for us to just move ahead at pace and and get some of that done. Because if you go to cities where pedestrianisation has been, and a lot of the big cities have done pedestrianisation over the years, Edinburgh's looking to do George Street just now. Actually it calms the city centre down, and it makes it a nicer environment walking about in it. And it also very much ticks the sort of green box and the climate change targets that people are trying to reduce fossil fuel for. So I think the pedestrianisation is also something I would like to add to the city centre.
Yep, definitely, and I think that's a sentiment probably shared by a lot of us on the call. At least I know I've been frustrated trying to drive down Union Street at the best of times. So yeah, thanks for that. Murray, I think what I'd like to do is just get a bit more information from you on a particular upcoming event. Now, without giving too much away, can you tell us, or the people that may not know, what inspired your TEDx venture and talk, and why now for Aberdeen?
So, happy to. So, Richard mentioned Vanguard project a while ago, initiated by the Chamber to get a cohort of well-meaning volunteers who wanted to play their part in the future of the city. So I got involved in that a few years ago from the outset, and it was fantastic. Met some great people. Formed a group actually where we looked at the question that we were posed in our first year was how do we make people fall back in love with Union Street. So not dissimilar to this tonight. So Vanguard ran a conference every year, and kind of second year, third year, I thought, well, actually, I'm a massive fan of TEDx and the TED conference, and watching TED Talks online. I thought, well, wouldn't that be a great way of stimulating debate and creating a discussion around ideas for the city centre? The way things panned out, TEDx wasn't felt the right medium for that. So I had a bit of time off between jobs, and kind of in the spirit of what we've been talking about today, I thought to myself, well, I've got some time in my hands. I want to do a TEDx. I'm just going to apply for a license and do it. So it wasn't. I can't be affiliated to the Chamber the way the TEDx license works. Right. But I just thought I'd be a bit annoyed if someone else went and got the license and did it, because I have got my own vision for what I'd like it to be.
Yeah.
Stuff I'd like to happen. So I just applied for the license. So I got it awarded to me on the 3rd of August 2020, and it runs for a year. So I'd hoped to do TEDx Aberdeen last year, but given COVID, just couldn't happen. And I didn't want to do it online. So as things began to release, and with the support of some other Vanguard volunteers, we took the plunge, and we're hosting TEDx Aberdeen on the 31st of July. I think it's a brilliant time to start discussing the what next for the city. The ideas we have are not all around, the talks are not all around about the city, but they are lots of kind of really interesting ideas and discussions which will prompt people to think, well, the theme is new ways of seeing old things. So we need new ways of thinking about the city, new ways of how we interact with each other, new ways about how we take the city forward, new ways of dealing with technology. So that's how it's come about. I am incredibly excited by we've had over 100 applications for speakers,
Brilliant.
It's a tough job getting it down to the 10 we need. So really excited.
Fantastic. Yeah, and that's really, really encouraging stuff to hear. So, and I was thinking, Heather, maybe we could share, Staxx and the TEDx links and things in the chat just for people who may not be aware, and
Sure, we can do that.
Yeah, get them looking into that stuff, because it's all brilliant things for Aberdeen.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate it, and thanks for all the answers so far. So many of you attending today are obviously here to find out, as Murray said, what is next for Aberdeen, and that's kind of the tagline we've been having on this webinar. So for this next section, I would like to focus on that, if we can, looking forward, and what can we do for Aberdeen as consumers, as a business, as Aberdeen Inspired, the council, etc. So I think we've got the right people in the room to definitely talk about that. So I'm going to try and ask a few more questions to pry a bit more out of you on that front. And Murray, maybe we'll just jump straight back to you. I know you've just spoken, but with events like TEDx happening, for more events like that to happen, more theatre, more comedy, what needs to happen in order to drive growth in that space?
You just need to get involved, put your hand up, join a board. There are loads of charities and arts organisations who are crying out for. I bet you the skills on the 30 odd people we've got on this call would love. The companies would love some of those skills. And it doesn't take up a huge amount of time. That's what we feel personally. I think in terms of the cultural piece. Take a chance, go see something you might not normally go and see, check out some art, go to the Belmont cinema, watch a film, and go to the art gallery for an hour. It's simple, enjoyable things like that. The other thing I'd love to see is businesses taking a chance and working more closely on a one-on-one basis, relationships with kind of startup cultural organizations, or an artist coming out of Grey School of Art who wants to set himself up, or sharing office space with graduates coming out of Grey's or School of Architecture or NESCOL, whoever it is. Little things like that. I think it's just back to this: get involved. I wouldn't have had any of that. Like the TEDx thing, it's been bloody scary, right? But I'm meeting some fabulous people, and I'm on tonight's call. I mean, that's fantastic, right? I get to talk about stuff I'm passionate about. So if we have an army of people like that in Aberdeen, we're going to be invincible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a big message to everyone we share this with, and everyone that's on the call. You can definitely take some responsibility yourselves and muck in. And we've got some quite encouraging feedback from people in the chat. Irina saying she's really rooting for Staxx. Many of the small restaurants have worked so hard for years to make it happen in Aberdeen, so they deserve a place in the city centre, and I think that's definitely right. Alan, can we go to you? Taking a view on Union Street, you did mention pedestrianisation. I guess what is the feasibility of that actually happening? And if you were unobstructed, in your view, what would it look like for you in the next 5 years?
Well, I think the feasibility is that the council are likely to have some draft proposals by July, August this year, which ties into the VHS project. I know it's currently being looked at by officers. The problem with it is a big thing like that needs quite sort of heavy-duty statutory reviews, and the transport planners have to kick in. You've got to go through the whole community councils, businesses. It's not just it's not as easy as it is. And I know people always just blame the council and whatever. Their hands are tied by government law. They can't break the law to get things done. But I can tell you there's a willingness in the council just now to get this through as quickly as possible. And I know that, for instance, the national government has the Levelling Up Scheme finance, which grants applications need to be in by the end of May. And I know that the council will be applying before the end of May. So they are right at the front of the queue. But the issue is, money across the UK tends to be sent to areas of deprivation. So Aberdeen is not a Category 1 place. So you need to know the background to this, you know?
Yeah.
You know, some places like some of those little places I mentioned earlier, like Falkirk and Granite and Kilmarnock, they would be Category 1 places that are more likely to get cash than Aberdeen. Aberdeen's in Category 2. But I think if we have a big and a bold enough plan, I think we'll get it. My own feeling is, I think that we can't go back to this, what the status quo was before the pandemic. I think we need to be different. Now, you won't please everybody in this model, and let's just not listen to the one or two keyboard warriors that shout the loudest, you know? Let's actually get a structured debate and get the people and the businesses. And, you know, I know from Aberdeen Inspire's point of view, we represent 850 businesses. We'll be looking to a survey across our businesses and then speak on behalf of the businesses in the city centre. So it's not just the one or two, like their face in the paper and speak the normal nonsense that the Abermoners, as I call them, speak, you know. So I think it's really important that we get positive people to, and yes, we can disagree, but let's not disagree with the concept of it. And let's try and work out where we can, you know, I'm sure there'll be compromises, but I think you're looking at a significant part. There's obviously parts of, and you've got to meet certain disability regulations or whatever, and access or whatever, and you know, fire brigades and ambulances need to get in about. So that all that needs to be thought through. It's not just as straightforward as right, let's do it, let's get it done next weekend. There is a little bit more to it. But I do know that there's a willingness of the council to push it forward as fast as possible.
Great. Well, that's really encouraging to hear, and you know, I hope it's good news to people that are here at the webinar to know that the council are proactively interested in doing something like that. So that's really good. Does anyone have any points on the back of what Alan has said?
Yeah, we're actually lucky enough to be doing the digital twinning of that section of Union Street at the moment, and it's in the public domain. If it's not, I'll get a clap on the lug from Sandy Beattie, who's responsible for the master plan. But the guys like Sandy, who are responsible for the delivery of the city centre master plan, are part thereof, and guys like Stephen Booth, who's the corporate landlord for Aberdeen, are really behind, you know, the comments that have been made, and there's a commonality of that vision, and just what Murray said. You know, you get two choices. You know, you can be a keyboard warrior, or you can actually just get off your arse and do something about it. And you know, it's your choice. It's always your choice to do that. Because without making a choice, then we wouldn't get anywhere. And my view for the future is, you know, telling people, you know, I'm astonished that 76% of the people didn't know what was happening in the city centre, which says to me they maybe don't know about BID, or they don't know about the Arts Centre, or they don't know about what Dave Griffiths and Michael Robertson are up to. Well, let's keep talking about it. Let's get that constructive conflict as well, because you won't agree all the time. It doesn't mean that conflict's bad. It means that actually two opposing opinions can come together to create something even better, and that's the type of conversations that we need to have. Just be brave, be bold, just do it, and get after it.
Absolutely.
I'd like to add in there in terms of the council, just to kind of go off what Alan was saying. From our point of view, having kind of had multiple kind of meetings with the kind of right people at the council, like Stephen Booth and planning and etc. over the last year, we've had nothing but like encouragement, positivity, and a lot of drive from the council to help us kind of get Staxx over the line, and other projects as well. They've even come to us with potential other opportunities that might be of interest to myself and Michael, that we can work on in line with Staxx to help improve the city centre. So it is obviously easy. They do get a bad rap. There are historical mistakes that have been made and etc. But at the end of the day, we've experienced ourselves that, as kind of Richard was saying, when you do just get off your arse and go, you know what, if I want Aberdeen to change, if I want it to prosper, if I want it to have a better future, I just need to get off my arse and do it. We've done that, and we felt the support. So they're definitely there to listen and there to offer any opportunity or assistance to the right people that are motivated to help change the city. So there's definitely bags of potential there, and they are very motivated to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic message again, and it's a common theme on here. I think that people need to do a bit more perhaps than they initially had done. As we've said previously, maybe we've had it easy, and now's the time to take a look in the mirror and really try and go after it.
And just my last point on that, the local government, national government, they're there to facilitate.
Yeah.
To do. There's I think we sometimes or keyboard warriors often labour under this apprehension that council to do everything, but they need to create, and it sounds like they are creating the right environment for stuff to happen. So let's take advantage of that whilst we can, because politics changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got another question, Richard. It's for you. It's parts of this have been touched on in what we've spoken about already. But would you see in the future a shift towards more residential properties within the city centre, Union Street, or is it more commercial? Where do you see that going?
Yeah, I think we will see it, but it'll take time. I mean, we're very grateful to be involved in some really great renovation projects for clients who've been willing to take a punt. Let a build it and they will come mindset, and
yeah.
Sadly or otherwise, or ambitiously, not local lads that have taken a view on it as well, but developers that believe in the city centre, believe in a certain product, and have delivered really nice apartments for the city. So you can do it. You need to take a different view on the win-win-win from it. The old margins, the old returns are not there. But you can, from a commercial perspective, make these things work. You can leave enough on the table for everyone to make them work. And over time, there will be a readdressing of the expectation. One of the challenges at the moment is there's an expectation around the rent and the revenue from these buildings that is based on a booming oil market, and not 5 years ago, most of those upper floors on Union Street, for example, were populated by recruitment companies serving the oil and gas market, paying 20 odd quid a square foot for their space. Now that space is worth about a third of that in terms of its potential to redevelop residentially. It's crucial to the success of the city. It needs a little bit of planning policy. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but the planners have been really good in supporting not having to force affordable housing in the city, which is great in one sense, because it allows developers to invest and make return whilst also allocating sites for affordable use. They've also introduced some more policy around how to develop in the city centre, which is very, very helpful. It's going in the right direction. There is a gap, however, and the people that own these buildings and the guys that want to develop them are on a different page at the moment. It's closing, and you're starting to see not just in Union Street, but Carden Place, Albine Place, migrating out from the city centre as well. There's a change in perception and perhaps a realisation that those spaces are not going to be offices point forward, and therefore, in order to make any sort of sensible return, they have to look at the alternative uses. And if we can convert them to residential, then I think it contributes to the success that we're looking to get after in the city. We need to get these spaces back to resi as quickly as we can. People living in the city, working in the city, spending their money in the city, and creating that ripple effect that I'm passionate about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's having spoken with people not from Aberdeen, they have felt it's kind of an upside down city in the sense that there is a city centre but nobody's in it. Whereas in a lot of these other cities, the city centre is the centre. It's where everyone wants to be. It's where they want to live. And at times, Aberdeen felt the opposite. So yeah, definitely good points, and good to get back onto the residential properties in city centre. Great. So I think we are just over an hour now, but I think as a bit of a high level creative thinking exercise, I each want to get an answer from you all. In the next 5 years, say all your wildest dreams came true, what does Aberdeen look like for you? There's no obstructions. Anything you can have, you've got it. What does Aberdeen look like? Anyone want to dive in?
Well, I'll dive in because 5 years is a very relevant figure for me, because as chairman of Aberdeen Inspired, we are about to go to reballot for the bid for another 5 years. And I personally believe that at this time, Aberdeen needs Aberdeen Inspired more than ever. We've been in the go for 10 years, and we've been fairly successful. 2017 British Bid of the Year, 2017 European Bid of the Year, knocking the small towns of Stockholm, Copenhagen, Paris, and I think it was Hamburg is also ran. So it was quite good to turn up at the event in Berlin, and that's come on the back of us trying to be a little bit different. I just wanted to give you a little bit of background to what the bid is, Matthew, just before.
Sure, absolutely.
We represent 850 businesses in the city. They pay 1% of the rateable value. Despite what the keyboard warriors say, we don't charge anybody under 27,500. So none of the small businesses pay towards the bid. The bid is paid for by the big shopping malls. Over 20% of the income comes from Union Square and Bonaparte. But I think what we've hopefully looked to do, and what we do is put activity in the city. When I mentioned earlier, the cities need footfall. And if we look at what we've done, what we do is we act for our levy payers. And 5 years ago, they told us to create events in the city. And I think in the course of that last 5 years, we've created restaurant weeks, which are really popular in the city. The Comedy Festival, played across 40 venues. The New Art Festival that gets international acclaim. We're the main sponsor of the Jazz Festival. You may not like paying £4 for a German sausage. Every big city in the UK has a Christmas market. And the head of Marquis, when he came up here to run the 4 stores, couldn't believe that Aberdeen didn't have a Christmas village. Everywhere he'd worked in Britain. So we managed to create a Christmas village. We're not an events company, but what we are, a facilitator to try and get things going, and then perhaps get council money and private money in behind. And I think there's more initiatives that we're looking to do, like Inspired Nights, Aberdeen Letters, but actually also quite critically is the lobbying. You talk about building relationships with councils. Don't just sit there and slag councils for their staff being lazy and they don't do anything. Unless you engage, unless you lobby, Aberdeen bid. We were chair of the Scottish Cities bids because we're actually the biggest bid in Scotland, and we're actually perceived nationally to be one of the best bids in Britain. We're still perceived to be it. And I think it's because of our involvement with lobbying and also our big time involvement with business groups. We have business groups for all the Union Street businesses, the Green businesses, the George Street businesses, the West End businesses. For me, the next 5 years, it's really critical that we re-elect Aberdeen Inspired for another 5 years. I think it's really critical that the City Centre Master Plan drives on forward, and we, get a bit of pedestrianisation in the city, get the football club to stay in the city, but also let's start talking up our city. Glasgow years ago was a hovel, and they just told everybody that they were city their culture and they were the best things since sliced bread, and everybody talked about Glasgow. You talked earlier about Dundee, right? The one good thing about Aberdeen is we're full of Aberdonians, not Dundonians, right? So we've got a lot of positivity to drive us forward. We've created a lot of first-class organisations like First Bus, like Aberdeen Asset Management, like the big, massive oil businesses. What we've got to do, we've got to come together. We don't have to agree on everything, but we need to come together, and we need to drive together with a common agenda of making it a better city for us to live and to work in. And that means people doing their bit. We use the expression pro bono, do your bit. Go on to boards that follow the arts, or go on to boards that promote city regeneration. Go on to the chamber policy review. Do whatever you can, but just do your bit for the city. but most importantly, talk up your city. Let's be the Glasgow taxi drivers, not the Aberdeen ones. You know, when you get a taxi in Glasgow and you ask to go to a fish restaurant, he says, "Hey, big man, by the way, that's the best fish restaurant out in Scotland." They don't even have a fish market, right? You come to Aberdeen and you go, "Don't go there." He says, "It's bloody dear," you know. So, you know, we need the whole city to be positive about the city, you know. And I think if we do that and go forward in a positive fashion, and you know, bring on all the initiatives. Some won't work. That's capitalism. You know, the last time I checked, we're a capitalist country, you know. So some things will work and some things won't work. But let's all be positive.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a great message and quite a powerful one that I'm sure will land well with everyone watching. And I think just as a quick stat to add on the back of that, you know, even if you can't dedicate a lot of your time to do something, there is something you can do, which is spend. You know, I think the Bank of England revealed that there's approximately 180 to 250 billion pounds of unspent money in the last lockdowns that have been saved up as pay has remained static and spending has come down. So I know Aberdonians have a reputation for being a bit tight perhaps, but there is definitely some really good places to spend your money if you feel like you want to. So I'd encourage you to do that and get out there. So yeah. Is there anyone else that wants to, you know, provide your vision for the next 5 years of an unobstructed Aberdeen? What does it look like?
Well, yeah, I mean, going back to the initial like kind of 5 years time, I think Aberdeen Inspired is vitally important, and what I'd definitely like to see is that connectivity between the city centre, the beach, getting these initiatives going, like the cafe culture by pedestrianising certain parts of Union Street, and giving the city these opportunities like the BHS building, like Staxx, however it may come. Because to be honest, as much as I'm rooting obviously for Staxx, I want that kind of concept, whether it's a similar one in BHS. I just want these concepts to be delivered, whoever's delivering them, because I want the city to improve. I think that these types of initiatives are really, really important to driving more people into starting business and to creating successful businesses that can grow within Aberdeen. So I definitely like these things to happen, whoever's behind them. I think there's enough demand for more than one of them to happen. And I'd obviously like to see that connectivity between city centre and beach kind of give the city centre those two sort of like co-working hubs where you can go to the beach and you've got the football club, you've got the entertainment venues down there, or you've got the city centre where you've got that kind of cafe culture and you've got a lot more residential space to kind of go in line with the office buildings that have been developed, which I think has been a really good thing to happen over the last kind of 5-10 years.
Yeah, great to hear. Anyone else? Murray, Richard?
So I'll go really quickly. So just focusing on culture. So we are now 3 years into the 10-year plan that was put together for Aberdeen. If we're looking at 5 years ahead, we'll be 8 years into that. You know, we've got a lot to do to deliver on that strategy. But effectively, what they want to see is, you know, a real vibrant cultural sector. There's a piece around global recognition around what we're doing, right? But we need the output. We need the people who are doing stuff to get the profile and the encouragement. So, you know, whether that's business partnerships to bring some of that together. I do feel there's a real opportunity to use the city as a creative space. So it's just more visible. Now, yes, we've got the weather. You know, we can't let that stop us. We just have to find innovative things. And I'd love to see a bit more energy behind that cultural strategy. Make sure people understand what it is. And you know, it's on the Culture Aberdeen website. It's worth a read. To deliver that, I think what we're going to need around culture is some leadership, action, and quite. You know, we've got a lot of organisations who are invested in the strategy. So we need someone to really take the lead on that and push that forward. If we get that right, again, we'll be a destination for people, you know, to come from all over Europe to be part of what's happening in the city and the city centre.
Absolutely. And if that lands with anyone who's watching and you feel you're that next person, get in touch. I'm sure Murray would love to hear from you.
Absolutely.
Just a wee bit from myself and a kind of architecty design perspective, that the canvas that we have got in Aberdeen is probably the most beautiful starting point in the UK from which to start from. To their credit and sometimes their detriment, the city have protected the heritage of the city centre. There are very, very few carbuncles in Aberdeen city centre. And if we are responsible and we pull behind the city council, we pull behind the different organisations that are going to spend this 150 million. And yes, there's no doubt the football club are going to take the largest share, but they're going to drive the largest share of people back into the city in the short term. So that's why that happens. But honestly, go to another city, go into our own city, have a look up at the parapets of the buildings, the architecture, get a sense of the place, and then compare it elsewhere, and you will realise how very, very lucky we are to live in the place that we live in. And secondarily to that, nobody's fucked it up yet. We've got the opportunity to come along and completely smash our city centre for it to be UK class, Scottish class, Europe class, world class. That's the opportunity that exists from a design perspective in Aberdeen. And yeah, that's all I want to say.
Brilliant. No, thank you for that. I did really appreciate it. And Heather, actually, maybe a bit of a surprise question for you, but to the same question, as a young professional, as someone who lives here, what do you think? What are your thoughts for the next 5 years? What would you like to see?
I think as a young professional, we've got a big incentive to drive these initiatives forward. We want a place that we can be proud of, that we can live and work in. There's things to do. It looks nice. So I think we all kind of play a part and should drive these things forward. And probably the best way to do that is our wallet, really. Go out, do different things, see what's on, follow local initiatives, and get involved. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think that is definitely the theme of today. Get involved where you can and really do try and play your part. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone, for all of your discussion there. That's been really, really insightful, and I'm sure people on the chat and on the webinar will agree. We did have some time allotted for a live Q&A at the end. So I would like to officially open that up now. So if anyone's got any questions on the chat, please do let us know. There's also the questions box dedicated to questions in case you don't want yours to get lost in the chat. So do let us know if you've got any questions. We can hang around for a few minutes. If there are no questions coming in the next few minutes, we can head off.
We've got one here from Holly. What role do you think the redevelopment of Union Terrace Gardens has in relation to culture, entertainment, hospitality, and retail growth in Aberdeen?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I'll go very quickly on culture. I mean, it's a new canvas. So, I don't know what exactly what's going to look like, but I suspect there'll be lots of places for, to showcase cultural stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else on that?
Yeah. For me, it's the beating heart that maybe we don't just quite have at the moment. It's a focal point for us all, and strategically there are a couple more looming. Queen Square is very, very exciting. The Green is very, very exciting. If you dot those places around and you create a diamond between Queen Square, the Green, Union Terrace, and the art gallery, you've got a diamond, you've got a walk there that you'll walk in 30, 45 minutes. You've got different things to do at different locations around it. Cannot underestimate the importance of that. Even better if you can walk up and down Union Street without getting smoke in your eyes. I mean, just picture it. It's a wonderful, beautiful thing, and the gardens brings that physically to life for me.
Yeah.
I think I would just add that we've made a massive error, and that Holly should have been in the webinar because she knows more about the city centre, because she's mentioned something that none of us have mentioned earlier tonight. And it's a massive investment in the city centre. So it can only add. You were talking about, I think Murray and Richard were talking about increments, if everybody does their own little bit, the gardens comes on, the theatre comes on, the pedestrianisation comes on, the BHS comes on, the football club comes on, they all will. So I suspect Holly's question was really having a pop at all of us for not raising the improvement in Union Terrace Gardens coming forward.
Yeah, we apologise for that, Holly.
Dave, what about a potential location in Union Terrace Gardens for Staxx? That would be good.
That would be pretty good. Don't add another location in the mix, please. We've got a few that we're working on, so we've got plenty of options, and they're all very good for it. So and they're not too far from Union Terrace either. Everyone, I'm sure, will be pleased to hear. So
great. Do we have any more, Heather?
We do. Irina asks, what are your thoughts on transport in the city centre? There's been a big push for pedestrianisation, which is nice in some areas, but a lot of people who live in the surrounding area need car parks to drive into the city. Is there a balance?
Can I jump in on that one? And it's something that I find in my line of work that Aberdeen's got a very, very car reliant culture, and I think it's partly geographical, but I think if you remove the ability to travel, if you remove that section of Union Street and you mitigate parking, then people will find alternative means to travel, in my personal opinion, without diminishing their desire to come to the city centre. Because if the city centre is a strong enough place to come to, then you don't want to drive to it. You want to come in with your mates on a Saturday lunchtime and go home on the last train on a Saturday night, or for that matter, a Wednesday afternoon even. So the pedestrianisation is really important, and it ties back into the other links that exist around the city as well. Train links, more flights to the airport. They're all really, really important to Aberdeen. The gondola from the new ferry terminal to the city centre, creative ways of moving around are to be celebrated and explored, and I don't think we need to rely on cars, and that's not to hit anyone who wants to take their car into the city centre with a stick. I just think that we need to move beyond that in the way that the other cities have, and there are many great examples of it.
That's brilliant. We've got one more question from someone with the same last name as me. That's funny. A real opportunity coming to the city with larger cruise liners coming in the not so far away future to this new South Harbour. What opportunities for the city do the panel predict, and what do we need to do to be ready for them?
If I could add a little bit here on with my Visit Aberdeenshire hat. I know that the office team at Visit Aberdeenshire are working very closely with the cruise operators to ensure that as many people come into the city as possible. The good news is that most people that go to cities, there'll be so much percentage of a tour, but a big percentage want to come into the city. And actually, and it's something I learned at a board meeting, was that, and also most of the crews want to come into the city to spend money, which you forget, because when the passengers are off the boat, the crews get the hundreds of cruise people are. The good news on it is that I'm probably talking confidentially here, so just say that Richard Tinto said that. Don't say I said it, okay? But I think there's already cruises booked in for the latter part of the year, some of which might not happen because of COVID restrictions. So it'll start as a trickle. Let's not get carried away. We're not going to get the massive, 5,500 cruise ships come, 5,500 people cruise ships coming in from day one. It's going to be down a smaller element, but they tend to be Scandinavians and Germans who are big spenders. So, and a lot of their day trips is around about the 4-hour mark. So if they go out to a castle or they go out to a distillery, they'll probably just go there and go back to the boat. If they don't do that, they'll come into the city. So I think there's a lot of work being done on connectivity. But what you've also got to remember is that the cruise line operators, they need to make money out of it. So what they're looking to do is they're looking to sell packages to their customers. Now, to use an example of I talked about earlier, Newark's a perfect example. They can get on a bus, come into town, go around the city, see the great Newark things, have a lunch somewhere or have a drink somewhere, go back, and the cruise operators can make money out of that. And I go back to my point earlier. We live in a capitalist society. So if the cruise operators, if it works for the cruise operator, then they'll keep coming to the city. Also, what we really need is we need to hit the ground running, because if they come to the city for cruises and the feedback forms are there was nothing to do, the Staxx market was poor, or Tinto's architecture has destroyed that city centre, then they won't come back. So what we really need is we need to make sure that their experience is good from day one. And I know there's a lot of work in the background going on to that. And hopefully, that's a perfect example of people saying, go off your own backside and get something done, set something up, I'm pretty sure that Brewdog will be doing Brewdog tours when they come there. I'm pretty sure Macallan will be doing Macallan tours. It's really up for the city to actually also. So, Murray, if it means that you have to do a comedy show at a matinee performance at 1 o'clock at the Arts Centre to attract let's do it. Let's embrace it.
Yeah.
I think that the actual South Harbour and the potential for larger cruise liners coming in is the opportunity, and that's why we all need to make sure that we're working as soon as possible to get more in our city centre that's appealing to people to come on day trips. Whether it's because in Aberdeen we're literally in the best natural larder in the world for food and drink anyway. People want to come here, but having them coming here to go back out in the city centre again just doesn't make any sense. We really need that kind of hub in the city centre where there's loads going on. The Diamond, as Rich was saying, where they've got places to go like the Art Gallery, Union Terrace Gardens. They've got potentially like a Staxx kind of creative social market to kind of go and explore and see what local foodies are doing, or local crafters and retail spaces. That's the big opportunity with this, is to make sure that we build something that gives these cruise line companies a reason to want to bring people to Aberdeen, because they will if there's opportunity, and then these people will come in and they will spend money, and that's where we'll start seeing the cities booming again. So I think that the actual cruise liners is the opportunity in itself, to be honest, and that's what we need to kind of work towards.
But what I would also say to that is do your homework. These people on the cruise ships get their food's totally included in the price, so they're not going to go to a fancy restaurant and have a lunch, because they go back to the cruise at night and get their meal for nothing. So and it's about, as you said, just making sure there's an opportunity. But many of them want to land in Aberdeen, go out to Royal Aberdeen, or go to Trump, or do something like that. But we all need to create different opportunities for them, because and coming to the city centre, whether it's Union Terrace Garden, whether it's the Art Gallery, let's just, it will happen. But also, it's not the golden nugget. Let's not think that suddenly cruise ships are coming to Aberdeen and everybody's takings are going to go up 30%. It doesn't quite work like that, But it's all incremental, If it can do another 2 or 3%, if a music festival can add 1%, if a big show at P&J can add 1%, you can get to the 30 or 40%. But it's all incremental. But it's about everybody buying into it,
Yep, absolutely. So anything more, Heather, do we have?
We'll just do one final one to end it on. It's quite a nice question. So describe your perfect day in the city centre. Who wants to go?
Yeah.
Bus into town, film at the Bellman, spot a lunch, maybe the Art Gallery, or maybe a couple of pints in the grill. And then early evening show is either His Majesty's or Art Centre, and then a couple of pints, and then home.
Sounds good. I'm jealous.
I think, yeah, but bus into town, so young family, so bus into town with the wife and the kids in the morning, haircut, I'd missed, are done. Oh, sorry, sorry, Murray. I spot a lunch, in down Bellman Street, or at Staxx or whatever. If I'm lucky enough, I get to disappear to Pataudry while the wife takes the kids to do something. Maybe meet back and early evening, as Murray says, go and see a movie at the Bellman. Go to the art. Go to the art centre for something to do, and get up the road on the bus, with the family later on in the day. You've spent a couple of £100 and spent 10 hours in your city centre. It's a nice thought. It's a really nice thought and a great question.
Yeah. Dave, what about you?
Yeah, I'd echo that. It's for me, like, first of all, phone off, phone off, get the bus into town, and then go and find, like, that would be my ideal. What I'm working towards. I want this obviously to get off the ground working, and again, want to go to somewhere that was like the vibe that the old indoor market had, because I loved it. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. I was really proud to actually have been able to work in amongst it, because the buzz of people in there. Obviously, it wasn't the best shape in the later days, but we tried our best to get a bit kind of passion in there, and just going somewhere to spend the day like that, where you can just get that kind of feel for the passionate vibe of people that really want to do kind of cool creative stuff, is what I want to be in amongst. So that would be mine.
Yeah. Alan, what about yourself?
Me, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start down in the morning. I'm going to have a walk along the best beach in Britain. I'm going to go into one of the cafes down the beach and have a wee coffee. We're then going to saunter down to Fitty to the Silver Darling, to the best fish restaurant in Britain. We're going to have a lovely lunch there where we're going to see the dolphins jumping about outside. We're then going to take advantage of the McGinty's Group free taxi back into town from the Silver Darling. We're going to go into town, maybe have a little bit of a culture at the art gallery, a little tour of the art gallery perhaps, and then I think we're going to head to the music hall to watch the Flying Pigs having their big performance in the music hall, come out of the music hall and go across to the grill and hopefully buy the £150 nips for the dearest nip we have in the music hall, and be also in the best whiskey bar in Scotland. So all in all, it was a pretty good day. It beats McDonald's and all the other nonsense they could be up to.
Not bad. Strategic venues there, Alan. I liked it.
You did say there was no sort of ban on any sort of subliminal advertising,
No, you fire away. Brilliant. Okay, so I think that's everything. No more questions on any more topics, is there, Heather?
No.
So I guess just to round off, once again, a huge thank you to everyone that's turned up today. I really appreciate it, and by virtue of the fact that you're here, you are obviously interested in doing your part for Aberdeen City Centre in the future. And I hope that what you've heard from all of our guests today has inspired you in some form, or at least raised awareness of what is happening in the city centre and what needs to happen to improve it. So thank you very much to our guests for being here. It's great to get this insight from you. And please do, everyone on the webinar, connect with these people if you can, follow their initiatives. We've shared some of the websites, so please do your bit. And I think that's everything from me. Heather, have you got anything to add?
No, that's it. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Matthew, for hosting. You've done a great job. So our second webinar, so it's gone very well.
Great. So if that's everything, we can sign off here. And once again, thanks very much, everyone, for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, cheers. Thank you.
See you later. Bye-bye.